You gave season 6 of Orange is the New Black a hard time. What were your problems with it?
Well, I mean, relatively hard time. I mean, it wasn't as bad as season 5, which I think most people would agree was probably the worst season. No offense to any of the people involved. I still like the show. I'm just saying that season 5 was not their best work in my opinion. But anyway, season 6. I mean, one of the big problems with season 6 is that one of the huge storylines is this trial that goes on where the administrators of the prison are essentially trying to frame a bunch of people for the riot that happened in season 5. Unfortunately, if you know anything about law or you know anything about what happened in season 5, that narrative makes no damn sense. Okay, like for instance, one of the people who's on trial and the person who actually is on trial the most throughout the season is Tasty. Another one is Red, and they're all making these decisions. But all of these people, the person who died is C.O. Piscatella, and they have him on a video that went viral during the riot, literally torturing a lot of the same prisoners that they're trying to pin the murder on. And there's no world in which that wouldn't be a mitigating circumstance, and they never provide it in any way during the series as a mitigating circumstance. Everyone in the world had access to that video, and he was literally, it's just crazy. And there are all kinds of other things like that should have been mitigating circumstances that any lawyer worth their salt, these are literally the people they would not wanted to have prosecuted because they were involved in that stuff that was mitigating. It just doesn't make any sense. Plus, the last thing in the world is that this prison would want to be put on trial, and any good lawyer for any of these people would then have put the prison on trial and exposed everything that happened in the riot, which is not what MCC would ever have wanted to have happen. So they would have been trying to suppress a lot of that stuff and not go to trial, and instead they're making this the center of their series. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. There's some other things that are crazy too, like Piper at the end of, well, I don't want to spoiler alert, some people in the show get early release. There is no federal early release. It doesn't exist. So the idea that the and even if it did, the private prison corporation runs the prison for the Bureau of Prisons. Officers in Litchfield, I mean, in this prison, they don't get the right to give people early release. That's not the way it works. But even if they did, there is no federal early release. You can't release people early in federal prison. It doesn't work that way. And so that, to me, that's a fairly big hole in the middle of your series. There's a lot of little things like that are bothersome. There's at one point one of the COs talks about, "Do you want me to talk to your parole officer?" Well, again, there is no federal parole. So, there are for prisoners before a certain time, there's a couple of very specific categories where that's possible, but for the vast majority, and certainly for that character that the officer referred to, there is no parole board. So it's just little continuity things that make no sense.